School is supposed to be a place where we feel safe, but when the doors lock and the lights go out, that feeling of security can quickly vanish. Sometimes the scariest moments happen right in the halls of your school. These are 3 terrifying true school lockdown stories that will make you question just how safe you really are. This is Dr. Horror, and you're about to enter the world of nightmares. Story 1, The Silent Intruder. In 2015, a small high school in Ohio experienced a sudden lockdown. Nearby, a convenience store had just been robbed, and the suspect was on the run. The school immediately locked all doors, and the students were told to stay hidden and quiet. For an hour, students sat in silence, the tension building as they waited for the lockdown to end. One teacher, Mrs. Johnson, sat at her desk listening carefully. She heard footsteps in the hallway. At first, she thought it was a police officer securing the area, but then the footsteps stopped right outside her classroom door. The faint sound of tapping followed, and then nothing. Mrs. Johnson's heart raced. The minutes ticked by, but there were no more sounds. When the lockdown finally lifted, Mrs. Johnson mentioned the strange noise to the officers, but what they told her sent a chill down her spine. "Ma'am," they said, "we haven't entered the school yet." Whoever or whatever had been outside her classroom wasn't there to help. Story 2, The Stranger in the Hall. It was 2018 at a middle school in Arizona when an anonymous tip led to a sudden lockdown. The caller warned of a man seen wandering the school grounds, possibly armed. Teachers scrambled to lock doors, and students huddled under their desks. In one classroom, a teacher named Mr. Reynolds stood near the door, trying to keep calm. The only light came from a small crack between the door and the frame. As he stared at it, his eyes widened. A shadow passed in front of the crack, stopping just outside the door. The figure stood there, unmoving, for several minutes. Mr. Reynolds held his breath, his pulse pounding in his ears. He couldn't see who it was, but the silhouette was unmistakably human. And then, just as quietly as it had appeared, it was gone. After what felt like an eternity, the lockdown ended. Police cleared the building, but found nothing. No suspect, no weapons, and no explanation. No one ever figured out who or what was standing outside that door, just watching. Story 3, The Abandoned Building. In 2010, a rural high school in Kentucky went into lockdown after reports of a suspicious person near an old abandoned building next to the school. The building had been closed for decades, its windows shattered, doors chained shut. But rumors swirled among the students that the building was haunted. Some said it was the ghost of a janitor who had vanished under mysterious circumstances in the 1980s. During the lockdown, students in classrooms facing the building reported seeing something in one of the top floor windows. A man. He stood there staring into the school. One student described him as wearing an old tattered uniform, the kind janitors wore decades ago. As the minutes dragged on, more students claimed they saw the figure. But when the lockdown ended and police searched the building, they found no signs of entry. Every door was still chained, every window covered in dust. But the students insist they saw him, watching. Was it the janitor's ghost, or was something else lurking in the shadows of that abandoned building? Sometimes the scariest things aren't in your imagination. They're standing right outside your door. Have you ever experienced something terrifying during a school lockdown? Share your story in the comments below. And if you enjoyed these creepy tales, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new nightmare.